Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Yuki and welcome back here to my channel. And today I have sort of a not really a spicy video, but it's just like it's a really cool video. This is actually gonna be I don't know what I'm gonna title this video, but it's for actual newcomers that are actually getting into Yu-Gi-Oh. Essentially what this video is gonna go over are 3 decks that are really easy for beginners and really easy for them to pick up, plus also just to give them a basic idea or a general rundown of how these strategies are particularly played. So obviously, if you can't already tell, there's many different ways that you can play certain decks. There are some decks that are easier than others. There are some decks that take really good pilots. There are some decks, like, not even just taking really good pilots, but they take a really long time and a little bit of a dedication to actually get. But these are for people who don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! That just want to get into it, to want to pick up and learn a simple and easy deck. So with the first one that I'm actually going to talk about in this video, the first deck that I actually want to actually let people know that's actually very easy to use, is Salamangreat. Salamangreat is a deck that is so easy and is so simple for beginners to learn. Typically, I think Link, like decks that use that mostly, like when it comes to the special summoning side, I feel like decks that constantly link summon are the ones that are easier to actually learn and to actually pick up. The more so because of that, with Salamangreat's inboards aren't typically that strong when you're going first, but it's a very good deck also like going second. And what makes Salamangreat different than the rest of the other decks is that, like I said, it's very simple and it's very easy to follow. Salamangreat Core, not only that, it's a deck that isn't really that expensive. Like, it's a deck that's not expensive at all. And it's a deck that, like I said, over time, like, you can easily pick it up. So what you typically do, like I said, with link spam decks like that, essentially the main inboard that you want to end on is not going to be a Salamangreat monster, obviously. It's going to be Access Code Talker. But Access Code Talker is probably the best Link 4 monster ever printed. If you honestly ask me, I think it is the best Link 4 monster ever printed. But Salamangreat is just, like I said, a deck that focuses on spamming Link monsters to the field and then just dishing out enough damage towards the end while also being able to clear your opponent's board with that Access Code Talker. So you get, initially, depending on how many Link monsters that you put on the field, you can get up to possibly even, let's say, 3 or 4 pops, as long as you keep banishing the different attributes for Access Code Talker to actually pop off. Salamangreat actually has a good card in Salamangreat Roar, which negates card effects and destroys them. They also have Gazelle, even though Gazelle isn't back at 3 in the TCG, but it's only, I think Gazelle is only at 1, right? I think Gazelle is only at 1. But Salamangreat Circle is at 3, and then I think Mirage Stalio is back. I don't know if Mirage Stalio is back in the TCG. But the easiest place to actually learn this deck is Master Duel. I literally have never played Salamangreat a day in my life until I actually played Master Duel. I would pick up other decks when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! During the time, but when I first picked up Salamangreat was instantly like something that I took on the rank ladder. And when Diamond first came out, like the Diamond rank first came out, I literally grinded all the way from Silver up to Diamond with Salamangreat. And it was just, like I said, it's a very simple deck to learn. I didn't even practice with it. I didn't learn. I didn't do anything like that. I just literally took it on the rank ladder, and the results speak for itself on how easy it actually is. Another deck that I actually think is very easy to learn, even though I hate this deck so much with a burning passion, it's Floowandereeze. Floowandereeze, also in the TCG, is one of those decks that aren't really expensive. I think the most expensive card for Floowandereeze right now is Floowandereeze and Advent of Adventure. I think that's the one with Floowandereeze and Unexplored Winds. No, what's the one with the snowman on it and the owl, and it's a spell card, but I just know it because it allows you to banish a card from your hand to in order to add, I think, a Floowandereeze monster from your deck to your hand. But the reason why Floowandereeze it's such an easy deck to learn is because, for one, for new players, Floowandereeze is just a deck where you just normal summon. It's not a deck where you have to constantly special summon or learn how to special summon certain monsters. And also, you don't need an extra deck at all when playing Floowandereeze. Typically, when you are playing Floowandereeze, you use your extra deck to banish cards to actually get more draws. Floowandereeze, like I said, is a deck that is pretty budget. Typically, like I said, the only card that's like expensive in the deck is only maybe about like anywhere between $5 to $15, which is the highest print card. And each other Floowandereeze card is obviously like $1 or less. So you can actually pick up those copies of each of those Floowandereeze cards. And honestly, don't even have to spend that much money on the deck. You can literally probably buy all the cards for about 40 bucks and literally have a fun time with Floowandereeze. What also makes Floowandereeze, like I said, a decent deck, the only thing that I can say that can make it pretty expensive is if you actually want to make it more competitive, and instead of getting Pot of Dualities, instead you'll get like Pot of Prosperity. So that way, but Pot of Prosperity, you don't necessarily need to play in the deck. It's just a good way to actually get into it. Plus, you can also play Pot of Extravagance, which is a much more cheaper budget option. But Floowandereeze is so simple. You just keep normal summoning. So each time a Floowandereeze monster gets their effect off, you can normally summon another one, and then typically you'll tribute summon off of 2 of them so you can actually go out into your Impin. It's also a deck that allows you on your opponent's turn, or even not even just like if you have a certain card on the field, that you can actually tribute your opponent's cards, not even just their monsters, but you can tribute off some of their cards on the board. Say if it's a problematic card, you can tribute off of that to keep summoning like the bigger boss monsters in your deck. But yeah, I think Floowandereeze, like I said, is one of those decks that typically, like I said, I hate it because it's a very annoying deck. It's one of those decks that not only play on your turn, but it plays on your opponent's turn as well. But it's fairly easy, it's fairly budget, and it's something that can really get like your feet wet into the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. And lastly, the third deck that I have here today is Sprite. Sprite typically isn't the most budget deck. Most of the Sprite cards aren't expensive. The only ones that are expensive are Blue, which you need 3 copies of. They're about like anywhere between 20 to 30 bucks a copy. And then Sprint, but you only need 2 Sprint, but they're $10 a copy, which honestly really isn't too bad. Sprite essentially is just flooding the field with level 2 monsters, and then putting those level 2 monsters into a rank 2 Xyz monster, or linking them off into link 2 monsters. Sprite is also one of those decks that you can actually pair off with, and honestly, you can actually make even more budget builds. You can actually play Pure Sprite, which is, like I said, Pure Sprite, even though, like I said, Blue is typically a fairly expensive card, the rest of the Sprite monsters really aren't. So you can actually, like, you know, pair it off with many different decks. So if you pair it off with the Live Twin strategy, that's extremely budget. Tri-Brigade option is extremely budget as well. And then also you can pair it off with the Runic for Hire version, but the Runic cards are typically a little bit more expensive. So that one you have to worry about, but the For Hire engine and the Sprite engine, typically, if you're on a budget, you can wait to get certain cards, and you can actually get the main important, like the other important cards that really aren't that expensive. Sprite, like I said, is one of those decks where, like I said, it's good. It's a really good deck, and it at one point, not in the TCG but in the OCG, it was by far the most dominant deck, prominent ever. Partially because Maxi, they could search out Maxi as well, but even here in the TCG, it's had a lot of success. Even during the Tearlaments format, when Tearlament was running rampant, Sprite was still really good on that aspect. Sprite is, like I said, is a fairly consistent deck, and even with the hit to Sprite starter, just only going to 2 from 3 copies to 2, it's still been pretty good. Like Runic Sprite, like I said, is probably the best version of Sprite. Runic for Hire Sprite is probably the best version of Sprite that we've ever seen, and like I said, it's having honestly a lot of consistent results. You can also play Frog Sprite, which, like I said, typically is like the regular Sprite engine, how most people play it. And then you can also Zeus Turbo with Sprite as well. So you can also Zeus Turbo. Zeus Turbo essentially is, obviously, you like stack Zeus on top of your Xyz monsters. It's good at clear. Like I said, Sprite is good at clearing boards, but the only problem that I gotta say with Sprite is that obviously, typically Sprites can't really beat down your opponent that much because, for the most part, the Sprite monsters are pretty weak. But what the Sprite monsters allow you to do, they allow you to actually go into even more powerful boss monsters, i.e. Zeus. Then you can also go into Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax and actually do a lot of damage when it comes to that aspect when playing with Sprite. And I think the best way in order to test these decks out is, I would say, go to, I'm trying to think of some websites. You got Dueling Nexus, you also got Dueling Book as well. And then even though, like I said, you have other TCG simulators that you can look up online, I will also, even though the meta is a little different, I would also highly suggest playing Master Duel just to see how the engine works, not see how the gameplay or like how things will work around it like will be, because obviously TCG, OCG, and Master Duel, they all play differently. But just to get a general idea of how the engine works or how you'll play a particular deck, like to get their combos and things like that, I always highly suggest Master Duel. Master Duel is actually really a simulator. Like I said, I've played all of the decks that, like I said, aside from Sprite, I played Sprite in the TCG before it even hit Master Duel. But Floowandereeze, even though that was a deck I hated, Master Duel taught me how to play that deck. And then Salamangreat, like I said, was a deck that I took all the way to Diamond when Diamond first came out. I took that all the way, like I said, I'm literally, I'm sorry about that, but it was a deck that I actually was able to literally learn right on the ladder. And like I said, they're fairly easy to play. But with all of that being said, I just genuinely hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just like stay tuned for more. And as always, like, hit the thumbs up, share the video, like, do whatever you gotta do. And it's been your boy Yuki, and we're out, so peace. So